the next 50 years we'll be thinking of underpopulation. South Korea, anybody from South Korea, might be extinct in 40 years. They have a replacement rate, 0.75. That means the 60 million population will go down to 30 million. And in 2 generations, 12 million. So, how do you make an aging vaccine? First thing is make a tool to solve it. This is Superbio that Kim's involved with. Let's make a machine that's a scientist. Biology is so complex, you can't actually do it with a single person. Now you can ask a machine, please cure cancer. It'll read 200 million papers, find databases, find which neural networks will work. I know at Genica we're trying to make an age shield that stops you getting disease in the first place. So to Chandrakant's question about what will we do if we don't have any heart disease doctors, well, we won't get heart disease in the first place. Solve that problem.
Roger, can we go into the panel?
Just one more slide.
One more.
Couple of slides. Right, how do you get involved with me? R42, we have an institute in the summer. We have courses. There's a AI certificate course that's October 14th. And then if you want to talk to me, you can talk to my digital twin. And then we have digital twins for Chandrakant and Suhas as well. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Yeah, that is one interesting thing. They're in the very beginning phase here. Ranjan's digital twin is pretty far along, but Chandrakant and Suhas, you have brand new digital twins. They're very young, I guess, Pravina, you would say? Young?
Yeah.
So Pravina helped to create these and get them going. Her company is Supra.ai, and that's one of the things that they do there.
Yeah, definitely what Chandrakant said.
Right.
The main expertise is available through your digital.
Right. So, I guess one moral of the story is you can't give 3 legends more than about 5 slides each. I think that's one moral here. But there's several things that I do want to ask all of you about, hopefully that you can comment on. One thing with AI, the energy demands are going through the roof. Can we keep up with that?
Well, my prediction, if you look at the history of AI, it gets more and more computation needed, more energy needed, and then someone comes along and says, oh, actually I can do the same thing with 1/10 the energy, 1/10 the level. And in a way, the DeepSeek from China was kind of like that. So I'm not sure, we might get something, and people who don't have the energy, they'll just have to be clever. It's sort of necessity of mother invention. So I'm not sure. We had the fiber optic boom in the internet. We did eventually end up using all of it, but there was a bubble at the beginning. So I'm not sure whether there's a bubble now or not. But if you look at the history, we seem to solve these problems.
Okay.
Anyone
So,
else?
Firstly, I think, given this problem is so important, some startup companies will definitely manage to build chips and take 1/10 or less power to do the same job. It seems almost impossible today, but I think that is going to happen. Now you have to combine that with improvement in algorithms and approach, which might give us another order of magnitude improvement. Combine, the amount of energy requirement will go down, and you can refit to same, facilities to do life. That's what I think is going to happen.
I'm not as optimistic as Suhas on this one, because in the 30 years I have been working on chips, and even in research, there were a lot of people who came. We will have neural computing, we will have molecular computing, and I was working on thermal problems, and that these thermal problems will go away. So in a chip, whatever goes in as power comes out as heat, 100%. 100 watt goes in, 100 watt comes out easy. So I have seen it get worse. To be sure, performance per unit watt has improved. Lot more functionality has gone in, to be sure, but it hasn't. In order for us to reduce power, I think Ranjan's going to be able to be successful this last summer. So we did a second law analysis on the brain. A brain, if we were to recreate the brain using today's computing chips, we would need a power station you would have to carry a power plant next to you. Think about it.
Yeah, my brain only uses 20 watts.
20
And
watts.
yet, it will be 20 kilowatts.
And it
the
operates at
condenser.
36 degrees centigrade. And in a chip, not only does it take 100 watts, or now 800 watts, a kilowatt, there is a third of, it will take another 300 watts to do the cooling.
Yeah.
Whereas our body is so efficient, we are operating at 36. So in order for us to really get to the point where we will make a difference, we will have to get to what Ranjan's been talking about, and I have that. I don't know how long it will take.
So that's definitely a burning question. Let me go with a few more questions here, and then we want to move to some questions from the audience. Hang on for now. I still got the floor, man. You can't kick me off after only one question. So, I love students, and I'm really glad to see a lot of students that I've known for a long time be here tonight. But I'm going to bash you just a little bit with some things that I was just reading today, and I'd like for these gentlemen to comment on it and see if this person is out to lunch. Her name is Susie Welch. She's a business professor at NYU, and she's got a book, Becoming You. Now, I'm not here to sell books. She also has podcasts that are probably free. But it seems like she has a lot of good strategy in there. And so one of the areas she's talking about is Gen Z. I always have trouble with this, but I think Gen Z is the younger generation here, right? So here's something that she has in her book, and I'd like for you to comment on it if this is your experience or not. And of course, I think it's very different for technology jobs as opposed to fast food jobs, I'm sure. So, this is all kind of rolled together. She said that from interviews with employers, 1 in 6 expressed reluctance to hire recent grads, and 3/4 labeling hires as unsatisfactory. What do you think?
I think she's wrong. My entire history, if you look at and we heard from Suhas as well, his own startup. I have seen when I started in the Valley and even subsequently until last year, our foundation was built on new grads coming out. My philosophy is very simple. I go by 4 P's. A new grad ought to have a point of view. Given the point of view that they would have to have passion. Given the passion, they should be willing to pivot. Pivot from disk drive to chips to systems,
Right.
to be able to pivot to any technology. Not
That's the T-shape, the breadth and the depth.
breadth and the depth, not saying, oh, I'm doing machine design, so I won't do anything else. Can't do that.
Right.
And then the 4th P is practice. Oftentimes people don't pivot because they are concerned that they don't know the practice. My thinking is if you have the first 3 P's, point of view, passion, and desire to pivot, you will pick up the practice. You can learn by doing. So I look for in a new grad the 4 P's. I don't care if they know the practice for which I have opened the job. I will take a risk on a new grad if they have the first 3 P's. And if you approach it that way, I think the new grads will be stellar. And that's my
So Huss, what do you think?
Well, I think
In 30 seconds or less.
Initially, I think the industry will have that orientation, but I think they will soon discover whatever you were saying, and there will be jobs.
Well, I mean, part of it is having the right people, right? Like you brought your PhD students that you knew firsthand, they knew you. You had a cadre of real professionals working with you.
So I think, the students who are now in college, they need to realize that the age of doing only one single thing
Yeah,
is
that's gone.
that of past.
That's
okay?
gone.
So they should make use of their time to learn different disciplines, okay? And when they have a major, the minor needs to be far stronger than it ever was. Okay? That's how, because gone are the days when you could go to college, get a degree, and get a job in a large company and retire in that company.
Yeah, that's gone. Ramchandra, what do you think?
I encourage young people to be creative. So how do you be creative? You can, if you think I'm the most boring person, etc., etc., and I probably was one of those persons. Put yourself out of your comfort zone. Courses that put you in team projects, force you to write essays. No, not just answering a math test. Put yourself in a creative thing, because basically that's what people, because the normal engineering will be done by a machine, and really what engineering you're going to do is what's going to be the issue, and that's the creative.
Yeah, and again, I'm not trying to bash students or new grads, but there's some things here you really do need to know. She also said that employers reported that a lot of people brought to the interviews tried to bring their parents to the interview. If any of you ever try to do that, you should be history. Absolutely, that should never happen. Yeah, and another thing that was found was that they didn't know how to set up a meeting with their chief person in their company. They didn't know how to do that. These are skills that you have to learn in school. You know, scheduling and things like that. You got to do that. There were several good things. I wish. Yep, I'm sorry. Wish I had them all set up. Affluence was something that they wanted, but it was a question of how to get there, given some of these other things. Then, sorry. See, this is by not being set up, but this was interesting because it came right there. But is Gen Z salvageable? I think you thought that they are. Well, he put up a poll.
They better be salvageable.
They better be salvageable.
We have no future.
Yeah, and us on
We
Social
just heard
Security.
about what's going to happen.
We
with
on
the
Social
population.
Security need you to be salvageable. So get out there and go crazy. But he took a poll. 78% said Gen Z was going to be salvageable and would come along and find its footing. I think that's probably correct. But I think, God, there's some scary stuff. If you try to take your parents or you can't set up an appointment, don't work for me, that's for sure. And probably don't work for these guys either of them. So we asked about energy associated with AI. What do you think? Do you think there are? What do you think about regulations associated with AI? Like there's a bill that's going to the governor now associated with certain regulations. And I know without getting into too specifics, but do you see the need for some regulation in AI?
He's the best person.
It's going to be difficult. Anything that can be done will be done,
Will be
whether you've
done,
got regulations
sure.
or not. And this is the fight, you know, if you have too much regulation, then you just don't build a good enough product. I think there is opportunity for a framework, right, that people can sign up to. Most companies won't sign up to it voluntarily unless the government forces it. So you need a framework that countries, China, Europe, and the US agree to, and then everyone else will come out. We've done it in similar areas in climate change, but it's pretty difficult. Just having no AI attached to a nuclear weapon, right? Just some basic, obvious things that can be done. So maybe it's 2 or 3 of those things that other ones that anything that can be done will be done by various actor or another.
One thing I've seen suggested is, sometimes there was a fear that high school students would try to write their papers with AI, and of course that's gotten stomped out in a number of places. That is definitely a bad idea. But at the same time, banning all use of AI is probably also a bad idea. It seems like you need to be able to learn how to use it effectively.
The pocket calculators, when they first come out, some of those are old enough, they said you cannot use a pocket calculator.
Right.
2 years later, you must use a because then the questions got harder.
Harder, yeah.
Right, so I think the questions are going to get harder. I mean, and again, it's unstoppable. You're going to have to teach differently. You're going to expect higher standards as a result of these tools.
But we should be asking the harder question to
Yeah.
the chatbot, not the
easy.
basic.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're using chainsaw to cut butter.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly. It gives the chance to increase up level the student question.
Maybe AI would have been a good thing to use when they were making across the board crazy cuts in our government. Then maybe looking at domain knowledge and things like that might have been a good thing to have figured out. Suhas, what do you think about the potential for founding and starting a company the way you did? Is it now so much harder, needs so much more money to get started? Like, probably can't get that good contract to bootstrap you along like you did. You did a really, really good thing. Where is that feasible anymore?
Well, the startups, make use of transition in technology. Okay? And often, the established companies poo-poo those ideas. For example, IBM was not ready to fund PCs, and it had to be done as a scrum work. Okay? So this happens all the time. So then, the startups would be doing things that is totally, kind of in the left field, so to say. And there's enough money with the venture capitalists, and some of them, may have their own doubts about what is going on, and would be willing to take this. So I think that startup activity, as long as there's transitions taking place in the market, or transitions taking place in technology, there's an opportunity for startup.
So one just last comment, and then I do want to open it up to questions from the audience. I'm sorry we're running somewhat later than we intended, but we're still going to have coffee and dessert and everything outside. So don't run away after this is over. Then I think as an expert witness, one thing I've seen occasionally was attorneys using AI to write a brief. And oh man, some judges have skewered some attorneys because sometimes there is beautiful case references and citations in there that don't exist. They're hallucinations. Anything you're going to use AI for, check. You cannot just do it and turn it in. You're going to suffer for that, and sometimes you're not going to be able to recover from it. So use it, check twice, and use it for your benefit, not for a replacement for thinking. You can't do that. It's also said that they're probably early stage, early career, certain fields, maybe software development, code development, may be impacted by AI. And I think that's probably true, that it can be. There's some things that AI does quite well. But learn other things that you can do and things that you can push back on, to use your own skill, your own reasoning, because there's still people that are making a lot of money doing, certain aspects of AI. Just don't go in at the lowest level and expect to come out a winner. So questions?
I add one thing to this.
Yeah,
Okay?
sorry.
So when I went to engineering school, for the first time, we had open book exams.
Yeah.
And I said, you can bring any book, any notes, and there was all legal. Okay? Those were the real exams. Okay? So now what we need to be able to do is, instead of just taking this, material somebody submits, have an open book exam for admission. Okay?
Yep. And I saw some people in open book exams, like the professional engineering exam. They brought in a wheelbarrow with every book they owned. That is also not a good strategy. Be selective. All right, so questions. Marzia is going to get a microphone to you. A couple of people have their hands up. Dave Kahan, I think you did.
If you guys don't mind lining up right here or just coming up front and center to ask your questions.
All right, it is on. Yeah.
First question for Chandrika, and it's not pushback, I kind of agree with you, but you said in consecutive centuries your law applies. What if the boundary conditions change? we still have 75 years in this century. What if energy becomes abundant, and then it may not be important anymore? There'll still be use cases where it's important, but common cases may not. Some other stuff might be more important, such as lineage of data, precision order. So your comments.
So second law of thermodynamics will never change. We will never win, we will never draw, we will always lose. So the destruction of available energy will always be there. Now what can happen is we can become like take solar panels, right? Available energy from sun is a kilowatt per square meter. That's the theoretical maximum. 20% of it is getting converted to electricity. We could get very efficient such that, to your point, in the next 75 years, the efficiency goes up for everything. Gibbs free energy suggests when you take hydrogen and oxygen to create a solid fuel, a solid oxide fuel cell, you get a certain efficiency. There's a theoretical maximum. The top solid oxide fuel cells maybe are doing 40%, 50%. What we can do is we can get better, more efficient and be able to reduce the destruction of available, reduce the irreversibility energy. That can happen in the next 75 years. And if that happens, then we, again, going back to available energy, we have done a good job of using available energy, and that can certainly happen. But I think availability is what we have. We're gonna have, once we go through fossil fuels, we're gonna have to wait for dinosaurs to come back.
Yeah.
Thank you. Another question for Chandrakant. I'm not a physicist, but one of the things I remember from physics that I still use is to convert units. You're effectively multiplying by one, but you have the units you don't want on the bottom and the units you do on the top. So my question is, I love the idea of joules. If I'm using AI and I can do in 1 second what it takes a person a day to do, what's the thing I use to get to a joules figure? How do I convert that into joules?
So I have thought a lot about, very good question. I've thought a lot about the joules in a human being. So I talked to one side, so I always look at, when I look at a glass, I don't look at it in dollars, rupees, or yuan. Or I can look at a laptop, I say 9 gigajoules, or 200 liters of kerosene destroyed across its lifetime. Extraction, manufacturing, operation, and so on. But in that equation are human beings. Whereas I can quantify the joules in process and materials. Like if I'm building the Golden Gate Bridge, AI can make the processes more efficient, so I use less energy in making the process. The human beings that climbed up to build the bridge, if Optimus robots can climb up and build the bridge, I would have maybe it will be less joules. But in terms of human beings, I have had a tough time trying to figure out what is the availability. The way I look at availability in human beings is as you're more trained, like if you're a craftsman, a metalworking, a woodworker, you have more joules available, not just a cardiothoracic surgeon. So skilled and semi-skilled people, depending on what they do, have availability in joules. I have a hard time trying to figure out. Once I did a talk at Stanford, and they said that social scientists have an index for the, and I don't know much about that. That's why I often say being T-shaped doesn't mean just engineer. You need to know social science as well. So I'm struggling with joules in human beings.
All right, now there are no more questions for Chandrakant until the other fellows have. You're too ebullient in your answers here. Yeah, that's all right.
Thanks, Ken. Suhas.
Closer,
Closer.
louder.
Yeah, thanks, Ken, Suhas, Chandrakant, and then John Peterson. Thanks for your talks. Coming from product development, I had a question on, you have analytical verification and you have validation of the results, right? So how can AI look into, fasten up speed up the analytical verification phase? All the FEAs or CFDs or any other analytical verification or even Excel tags that you do. How can we fasten up, how can we speed up this process so that the product development cycle can increase, fasten up? Instead of doing a 1-year release, can we do a much faster product releases? Thanks.
Well, is there a specific field you're talking about, or is it a general question?
I come from a mechanical background, and then especially in solar or in energy development, right? So, for example, if you say solar, the product is the same for the past
I got
30
it.
years.
Okay. whether in chip design, or I'm sure it is also true in mechanical system design. Okay? You know, we've had ways of verification improving it works. Okay? AI definitely, you know, is a tool that can be utilized to draw your attention to the spot that you need to check. Okay? And make sure you have covered all the points. Many times you make mistakes because, you know, wherever the problem is does not get exposed to you. The AI will be very good in identifying and thus reduce the amount of time to get full verification.
All right.
And
So-
I would never let you use AI unless you do reduced order model. No FEA or CA, that's faster.
Oh,
Hi, Shrikant Seelan.
louder.
Hello, I'm Shrikant Seelan, formerly SVC. My question is to anybody in the panel, but probably more towards Dr. Ranjan. This is more like a policy type question and kind of open-end answer. Currently, the AI is growing so fast that it's sucking up a lot of energy across the board, many towns, valleys, and cities in general, literally worldwide. And the shortage of energy is causing limited resource being used up, and there is an imbalance in what the power costing for the common consumer. So, any thoughts on how technology can balance this up?
Yeah, so the usual
Broad-
answer
broad
is,
question.
yeah, the usual answer is AI will figure it out eventually. The necessity is the mother of inventions, we talked before. Eventually it'll be so expensive that humanity will come up with a solution. It's more of an idea. It might be the level of governments, because governments are seeing all this energy being used up, and if it takes away, there's an old, I forget, it's Dark Mirror episode where all the energy is taken away, the AI's putting humans to work. The governments have to put policy on. So we need more power stations to do this. But I think the solution is going to be someone coming up with a cleverer idea. Even my little biology thing, we run on 20 watts, not 20 kilowatts, 1,000 times difference, right? And someone's got to come up with a new idea.
I have a comment.
Yeah. Okay.
Either way, I would not, if you're going to build an AI data center, I'm going to ask you to get on a treadmill and generate your own electricity. When our ancestors built aluminum factories, they built hydroelectric power plants first, all over the world. So if you're going to build an AI data center with a gigawatt of power, build a power plant first.
Hello everyone, my name is Hashim Jabir. I'm a master candidate at San Jose.
Louder.
And sorry, do I reintroduce myself? My name is Hashim Jabir. I'm a master candidate at San Jose State University, and ironically, my master is in AI, artificial intelligence. Now, one of the few things that we study in the beginning of our field is evaluating models. That could be traditional machine learning models, that could be more advanced deep learning models, all the way to traditional AI models, which is ours. Now, one of the things that you mentioned was joules, right? Energy consumption, counting energy in, energy out, and how do you evaluate that? One of the funniest things is that in AI, these days, what we find is that everyone throws AI into everything. And there is the aspect of cost to it, yes, but there's the aspect of quality. So you may build the Golden State Bridge with 12 joules, for example, just giving a random number, but the quality of that bridge might not even hold a feather. Well, in reality, when we bring the intellectuality of all the human mind, which one of you mentioned is, a single mind is the power of the generator. That bridge doesn't do well that it holds into the ages. The question becomes, where do we put a line between trying to integrate AI into everything, while not realizing that AI is meant to be as an efficient tool, but not a replacement of human being? I mean, we spoke about how Gen Z are seen as people who are lazy or maybe a bit unsatisfied as employees. But the reality is, one of the things that you mentioned was, you need to just pivot to vocation and passion. might be lazy and use ChatGPT to write an essay. Employers are lazy and they use EMS systems to filter out candidates. So again, the question becomes, where do you put the line into understanding that I can use AI here and there and everywhere, but where does the human element go into,
I think
for example?
I've got a question, when do you use AI and when you don't use AI? So there's an older version of AI called symbolic systems where you just write down the rules. So we want to learn how gravity works. You wouldn't use AI for that. We actually know the formula. But I don't need to drop an apple 1,000 times and collect data. I know that Newton told us the formula already, so you wouldn't use AI for that. But no, productivity, things that are hard, that's where you use AI. I think that's the obvious answer. Just as a comment.
If my answer is very clear, do AI or not do AI is the question. And the answer is, if domain will solve the problem, don't do it. If you got domain knowledge will just like
Basically, the gravity problem,
if
domain knowledge.
domain will answer the question, don't do it. Collecting data doesn't make sense. And offline I can explain to you many complicated problems that were solved by domain, but data collection actually took longer and didn't solve the problem. I can send you a paper.
And so those are the good kind of questions to pick up when we break up and go back for final desserts and things. So maybe one more question, maybe two, we'll see.
I have studied startup failures and tried to save quite a few of them for quite some time. And at 35, I decided there were too many good PhDs, but there was no curriculum.